Welcome to Real Life with Jenny. My name is Jenny Senaparatna. Grab your favorite drink, get yourself a snack, and we'll get started. Today I have English breakfast tea with lemon, and I also have leftover Halloween candy, which are Sour Patch Kids. I've actually never had them before, but they were on sale. I thought the kids would like them, and then we had 3 trick-or-treaters come by. So now they're mine. So let's get real. So my husband and I just did something that might be a little wild. We didn't feel like it was until it was happening. And then we were like, what are we doing? That is, we have a 17-year-old. She can drive. She goes to college because in Minnesota you can go to college your junior and senior year. And she's got classes at like a co-op. And she's very involved in her youth group. So we had to go, we got to go. It was a fabulous ministry trip in 3 different states we spoke in. We were in 4 states. So we went out to New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. And we spent 10 days there. And it was amazing. It was one of those like, wow, I actually... want to talk about a game that we played during that in a different podcast. So we'll see if I get back to that. But the one thing that we did is we left our 17-year-old behind, not with grandparents, not with a friend, not with anyone, just her in the house. And it was a huge thing for us to acknowledge that she was capable of taking care of herself and the dog. Like, because she had the dog here. And so it was a big leap for me, I'll be honest. Because mom, as a mom, you take care of your kids and you try to make sure that their lives are comfortable. And you really look out for all of those minor details that they have no idea you're watching out for, like locking the door at the end of the evening, that she's actually never done before. She's never locked the doors to the house. Like, that's not something she's ever done because she doesn't have to because mom and dad do it. One time I came home and I was like, sweetie, why are all the lights on? And she was like, oh, I don't like it, just those kind of things, right? And so we left her for 10 days. And there were moments on the trip that I was like, was this a bad plan? Did we set her up? Does she know what she's doing? Because next year she'll be in college and she'll be off and she will be living her own life at a college dorm. And so we really wanted her to have that feel and that ability to know that she can do it. Because I think sometimes we take care of people and they don't know that they're capable of really great things until they fly, right? You don't know until you're pushed out of that nest that you can fly. And so yesterday afternoon, we came home. So it's only been about 24 hours that we've been home. And we came home and my husband's like, you go inside, I'll get all the stuff in, go see Samantha. And so I run inside and I have to tell you, like, I saw her, which was super fun, but the first thing I saw was the house. It was spotless. Like spotless. I was like, where did you hide everything? Like, what is happening? Like, could you start cleaning the house for me kind of moment. And it was just such a humbling situation to know that for 10 days she ate, she took care of the dog, she had a party while we were gone with our permission, but she did have a party. She had some girlfriends over and they carved pumpkins. And of course, as a mom, you're like, okay, so when you're carving pumpkins, maybe use a butter knife because if someone gets cut. And she's like, Mom, we're responsible. We can use regular knives. And of course, I'm like, of course you can. Oh no, this is so bad. Like, you just start, second guessing everything because you're not there. Right? You're not there when something happens and they need you. And for me, it was such a release into the next phase of our life, that I was sitting down with a pastor's wife, and she has two grown sons and they've both moved away. And she came up to me and she was like, I just want you to know that this season is hard. This is a hard season when your children become independent. It is a very hard season, but that doesn't mean that God doesn't have great plans for you. Your life has been to take care of them, and God's got great plans for you. And it was just such a reminder of God is in control and I don't have to be 10 days. It was just like she needed to know that God was the one that provides, not mom and dad. Like, it was just such a phenomenal thing to be able to come home, and we talked to her, obviously, we talked to her on the phone, and she did go to her grandparents' house a couple times, and she walked the dog by Grandma and Sia's house, and which is Grandma and Grandpa right down the road. And she went over to my mom's house a couple times, and my sister came and took the dog on the days that she was at school all day, so the dog wasn't alone. And like, there was a community around her, but we get so hyper focused that we're the only one that can do it, right? Like, we're the only, in fact, I saw it where we were out and about, and we did some like window shopping and different things like that for these in between services, and there was something about, I'm not a control freak, I'm just the only one that knows how to do it. And I showed Kevin, and he didn't think it was nearly as funny as I did, because I know that that's who I am. I am not a control freak, I'm just the only one that knows how to do it right. And these last 10 days have taught me that I'm not the only one that knows how to do it right. I came home to a spotless house. All the dishes were done. Her laundry was done. Like, she does it anyway. Like, she had eaten. It was just so, the dog was happy, fed, like, he was doing great. In fact, I was like, he looks trimmer because he had been on so many walks with her. Like, it was just amazing to know that I don't have to be in control for things to happen. God has got it, and I don't have to control every minute piece of life for things to flow. And maybe you're not at the point that you're going to allow your children to be at home alone for 10 days. I wouldn't recommend it. It is something that's extremely difficult to do. And honestly, we did it because she is one of the most, if you know my daughter, like, you're like, of course she could be left alone for that period of time. She can't cook. That's not something that she's great at. She had to learn how to fend for herself and make food, which I thought was a great opportunity because, that is how I learned. I had to learn how to cook because there was no food unless I made it, right? Like, that's what happens. All of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, my mom was working full time. So if I didn't make food, there was no food. So it came out of necessity, my cooking ability, not out of, oh, I really enjoy this. It came out of necessity. And so I knew she'd get there. And she did. She made it for 10 days. And I don't think she ate out all that much, which is pretty impressive. I was kind of jealous because we ate out the entire time, and I love eating at home. It's one of my favorite things. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But is there something in your life that maybe God's telling you to let go of the control of it, right? There's something that you're going, I have to micromanage this situation. And God's like, hey, you know what? It's time for you to let it go. There are other people that can take care of this, or maybe you just need to let it go and see what happens and see what God can do when you let go of those reins and you say, okay, I realize I'm the only one that knows how to do this right, but maybe I'm not. Maybe there is something in your life that you're holding on to so tightly, and if you let it go, it might blossom. It may just become something that you didn't know it could become. if you let go of it. And that's really hard. It's hard to let go of things and see it blossom. And that's what happened with me. I was like, I want her to need us, and I want her to, like, I didn't want her to fail. Okay, let's be very clear. Like, I didn't want her to fail, but I didn't want it to be as successful as it was. I was like, it's okay if, like, this week teaches her maybe she should just stay home and not live in the dorms. Like, that's okay, right? And it did the opposite, because she blossomed and she grew because mom wasn't in control anymore. And I think that that's so important in our lives, because we can get so hyper focused on things, and God tells you to let go of it. And you're like, but Lord, when I let go of it, everything's going to fall apart. And he's like, so let it fall apart. And you're like, but if I let go of it, God, it will fall apart. And he goes, so let go of it and let it fall apart. You know, when he talked to Gideon and he was like, you have too many men in the army. People will not see the glory that I've brought them to victory if you don't get rid of people. And then he came up with these crazy ways of getting rid of the people by lapping up the water, how they drank the water out of the river, and then half of them are gone. And that, you know, like, that's a wild thing, because he had to let go of, like, I got this entire army together for you, Lord. Like, I've scraped all these people together for your victory. And then God's like, yeah, too many, let them go. Like, let them go home if they want to go home. And let's put them through some tests to, like, narrow it down to less people. And you're like, but I worked really hard for this. Like, I worked really hard to get this amount to get where we are right now. And you want me to do what? And that is sometimes what God calls us to. We have put our blood, sweat, and tears into something, and God's like, it's time for you to let some of this go. And you're like, but Lord, if I do. And he said, and if you do and it crumbles, that's okay. And if it flourishes, that's okay. And sometimes it's for your betterment that you need to let go of something. And so I just wanted to come on and say, hey, I've been through this journey. It's only been 10 days. I'm probably still going to hear stories about what happened while we were gone. You know, she probably hasn't told us all the, she's told us a lot of the good, and maybe we haven't heard all the bad yet. But I know, because I watched her when I came home, the joy and blossoming of how much she grew in those 10 days, in confidence that she knew she could do it. And that she knew that God was her source and God was her strength. And when mom wasn't available to talk to, or dad wasn't available to talk to, she could go to the God of the universe and say, help. And he was there to comfort and take care of her. And so whatever you're holding on to, that God's like, hey, it's time for you to let go of this a little bit. Just maybe not such a tight, maybe you don't need to let it fly yet, but maybe you need to let go just a little bit for your own sake or for something else. And go, Lord, I'm going to trust you with my finances. I'm going to trust you with this job. I'm going to trust you with this project, with this child, with this relationship, with this ministry. I could go on. And God's saying, hey, let me do it with you. Let go and see what God will do. Well, that's all I have for you this week. I just hope that resonates with you, that if God is not telling you now to let go of something, that you'll remember later, because he will later tell you to let go of something and say, hey, it's time for you to move on to something bigger and better, or something different, or who knows. Like, God, when you're walking with him and you're listening to him, it is an adventure and it is exciting. And I'm telling you, I love where God takes me when I allow him and I say, Lord, lead me. My husband just got done talking about that on Sunday, and talking about one of the most dangerous prayers that you can say is, Lord, lead me. Just 2 words. And when he does lead you, it can be so fun and so scary. And one of those things is giving up something, giving up some control over something that only you can do. And God's like, that's not true. Let me show you what I have for you other than this one thing. Well, you can find me at Real Life with Jenny on Facebook, Instagram, and Be Real. You can also find me at christconnection.cc/Jen. Hopefully that this week is full of new freedom for you, that you are allowing yourself to let go of worries, let go of stresses, let go of financial things that you don't need to care about, and that you can let the Lord take care of for you. You have a great week.